The Gainesville Times is on TikTok.
That's right, we're on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Find us at Gainesville Times or G Times News to get the latest about what's going on in Hall County. Reach our listeners with your brand right here on Taken Too Soon. If you're interested in being a part of the show as a sponsor, email our team at marketing@gainesvilletimes.com to get more information.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on the Taken Too Soon podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or positions of the hosts or contributors. This podcast deals with mature topics that may not be suitable for all listeners. Material heard on the Taken Too Soon podcast is intended for adult listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
In January 2007, Jennifer Boyd received a letter in the mail. Instead of a bill or credit card offer, it was an alleged confession to killing Elaine Nix and dumping her body.
But the original recipient was not the Jennifer Boyd you've heard from over these previous episodes. No, it was a different Jennifer Boyd who is nonetheless aware of the case because of their shared name.
Well, there's actually another Jennifer Boyd in Gainesville. And I always kept my information private because I was so involved in the case. So they had actually it didn't have an address, it didn't have a stamp, it just had my name on it. And they put it in her mailbox. And then I had actually probably a few months before that got a package that was hers. So I had got in touch with her and took her package. So once she got the letter, she got in touch with us. And that's when me and Becky went over there.
And did you turn that over to law enforcement?
Yes. But that has not come up in any of their evidence.
In the last two episodes, we walked through the theories people have had about what happened to Elaine. For this episode, we wanted to look at one of the more bizarre turns in the case during these last 25 years, involving a mailed confession.
The letter confessing to the crime had the address and a signature of a well-known local businessman and philanthropist. Law enforcement investigated the letter and determined it to be a hoax. The Times has opted to refer to the alleged writer of the letter in this episode as the businessman, and the other two men's names will be changed to man number 1 and man number 2.
We have also removed specific references about businesses and other names for reasons that will become clear later in the letter. On January 24, 2007, The Times ran an article headlined, quote, "Fake confession raised hopes of solving murder," end quote.
The Hall County Sheriff's Office told the reporter the letter was taken, quote, "very seriously," end quote, before being dismissed as a hoax.
Quote, "Authorities have not identified who wrote the letter, but believe it is someone who holds a grudge against the person named," end quote, according to the article. All right, in 2006, the Gainesville Times ran an article that essentially said that law enforcement believed that that letter was a hoax. Do you believe that the letter was a hoax, or do you believe that there was some truth to the letter?
I believe there's possibly some truth in it, but
The businessman
was a prominent figure here in Hall County. So, I mean, it could be a hoax and somebody just targeting these people to get them in trouble, but you never rule anything out.
Jeff Strickland, who was then a sheriff's office major, said the letter's author could face forgery and mail fraud charges. Quote, "We have questioned a person in connection with it, but at this time we still have not named a suspect," end quote, Strickland said in 2007.
And so you turned it over to them and they took it, but you haven't heard anything about that letter since.
No.
We filed an open records request regarding the letter and any possible forgery or mail fraud investigations related to it.
The Hall County Sheriff's Office said they were able to find the letter, but it was not releasable because of the, quote, "pending prosecution open investigation," end quote. The case number cited for the open investigation was for Elaine's death investigation. However, we have the letter thanks to Elaine's best friend, Jennifer Boyd.
So we were able to read it in its entirety, and we'll read a lightly redacted version later in this episode.
But when former investigator Marty Nix was in our studio, we wanted to see if he remembered the letter.
Marty Nix told us that he left the sheriff's office in 2011.
When did you leave the sheriff's office?
2011. Yeah.
We asked him about the letter, which was brought to law enforcement in 2006. Do you remember this letter?
I not enough to comment on. I
Right.
do.
I believe it. I don't want to give out like names, so I'll just use first names. But he talks about himself, a gentleman named.
After trying to jog his memory by recounting the letter, here's what Marty Nick said.
That would have been in 2006.
I believe so.
Yeah, I had. Yes. I cannot speak to that. I know that I remember there was some leads that came up after I had left the sheriff's office, and I knew there were some leads that, were followed up on. However, I cannot speak to how those results were handled.
Okay.
Or how those, I can't, I don't remember. I'd have to go back and review.
The letter is headed with the businessman's Gainesville home address and dated December 28th, 2006.
To whom it may concern.
Can't get enough of Taken Too Soon? Check out bonus content exclusive to Times subscribers at GainesvilleTimes.com/TakenTooSoon. See photos, read old articles, review documents, and watch videos from our interviews. Subscribe today to dive deeper into this cold case mystery. Find the bonus content link in the show notes. And now back to the show.
To whom it may concern.
Sometimes in life, bad things happen to good people, but also sometimes good people do bad things.
Everyone makes mistakes. I am no different. I have gave to this community, my home.
One thing that separates man above all other animals is called a conscience. Early September 21st, 1999 is when I lost mine.
It has been a hard and heavy load to carry ever since. Please forgive me.
Earlier that night, man number 1, man number 2, and I had spent the evening drinking at a trailer just off Candler Road. Man number 1 had wanted to go there to recruit some help for his business.
After laughing and joking around all evening, I finally had to leave. The age, I guess, and the fact that I do not like to make a practice of associating with the workers.
Since we were in my SUV, I decided I was okay to drive. I had not gone far when we noticed the little blonde standing at Zach's. She appeared alone and it was past midnight.
I kept driving, but man number 1 and man number 2 kept pushing me to turn around to see if we could get a little bit.
I finally turned around and decided to get some for myself also. We thought and laughed, what would a girl be doing alone at night out here unless she was a little wild herself and we had plenty of cash and beer for her?
Sure enough, we found her to be alone in the parking lot. We did not know her age or name and really did not care. The main thing, man number 1 has a serious hard-on for blondes and still does.
I offered the girl $100 to spend some time with us if she was over 18. She said she was over 18, but no thanks.
She tried to get to her car, but we quickly cut her off. She said if we did not leave her alone, she was going to start screaming for help.
Man number 1 really flew off the handle and went after her. He slapped her, turned her, and grabbed her from behind. He covered her face, nose, and mouth with one hand, and the life went out of her.
His hand swallowed her whole face. She could not breathe. She fell slowly back against him, but he pushed her off to the ground.
We thought she had just passed out. He wanted her in the back seat with him, so we moved her in there.
Man number 1 was sitting there laughing, fondling the girl, and at the same time was holding her tight so she could not get away when she woke up.
She never woke up. When we got to the kangaroo, we realized she was dead. Man number 2 and I were shocked over what we had maybe done, while man number 1 got madder than hell and started yelling. I wanted to take the girl back to Zach's. Man number 2 never said a word, but man number 1 said to drive him on to man number 2's home, and we would handle the situation.
What we had all agreed on was no cops. We were half drunk, smelled of pot, and now a possible dead girl was with us.
All the way to man number 2's house, no one said another word. I told man number 1 to just get her the fuck out of my vehicle. He slung her into the back of his truck. I was relieved as she was moved from my SUV to his truck. I just wanted to get away.
Man number 2 began throwing up and went inside his home. He didn't want any part of it, but said he would keep quiet.
Man number 1 said he was either going to dump the girl into the lake on the way home or throw her in a bin at a Gainesville business.
I told him I would follow him. I followed behind him out Cleveland Highway and helped him throw the body into one of the large bins at a Gainesville business.
Although we drove slow over the bridges, he said he decided not to throw the body into the lake because the bridges were just too open and he thought a cop might ask questions if we were stopped. We were the only 2 vehicles on the road. I agreed.
We did not speak for several days, but by then I had seen the girl's picture and learned through the media it was Elaine Nix.
I called man number 1 and told him, whatever you do, don't let anyone find the body. Our DNA, fibers, everything is on it. He told me not to worry. He was going to move the body anyway.
He was concerned it might be seen by a construction worker on a roof, and also that the body itself might start to smell. I saw in the news where it was found in Gwinnett County. All I know is man number 1 dumped the body off Atlanta Highway.
The reasons I am coming forward now are twofold. The remorse and grief I feel for the Nix family is unbearable. I have lost many hours of sleep since the incident and am prepared for the consequences that may lie ahead.
I ask for the forgiveness of the Nix family, the city of Gainesville, but most important, our Lord Jesus Christ. Please forgive me.
I am also concerned with the family on Alula Road. Man number 1 said a woman has snubbed her nose and twisted her ass at him since high school, and he plans on snatching one of her daughters, if not both of them, and have his way because of it.
I cannot bear another incident like Elaine Nix. They are both blonde, about her age, and he will not listen to me. This needs to stop. Remorsefully, the businessman.
Hey, true crime junkies of North Georgia, are you aware of what's going on around you? Find out by signing up for our free newsletters from the Times. You'll get local news in your inbox daily, including at least 1 free article a day about what's happening in Hall County. And now back to the show.
So, what was your impressions from the letter, from reading it?
We've got him, is what I thought. Like, it's so detailed. That they're being very apologetic and giving very graphic details of what happened.
Oh, it was like he knew what he was talking about. Like that's how it happened. You just think somebody with that kind of character and that much money, why would he do something like that? I mean, I don't know.
There are a few typos in the letter, including the use of the word conscious, as in awake, instead of conscience.
The penultimate line about listening to me is spelled T-O-O. However, there are some details within the letter that seem to check out.
The letter mentions man number 1's business. This checks out. Man number 1 does own that type of business and did back in 1999 when Elaine went missing.
The letter also mentions that man number 1, quote, has a serious hard-on for blondes and still does, end quote. A look into man number 1 showed that he was married to a petite blonde before she passed away in 2020.
The letter mentions that the 3 men, quote, spent the evening drinking at a trailer just off Candler Road, end quote. This is off the same highway where Elaine was last seen using the payphone at Zach's food rack.
The letter also mentions that when the men encountered Elaine, quote, she appeared to be alone and it was just past midnight, end quote.
We know based on the police report that Elaine was on the payphone with Billy until just after midnight, so the timeline of the letter appears to fit.
The author also writes about learning from the news that Elaine's body was found in Gwinnett County before saying, quote, all I know is man number 1 dumped the body off Atlanta Highway, end quote.
Elaine's body was found in the woods behind an industrial park. The entrance to that industrial park intersects with Atlanta Highway.
Lastly, whoever wrote the letter knew the businessman's real address because that address was included, and we have verified that it is an address that he used on documents as his mailing address dated back to 1998.
All that being said, all of that information is merely circumstantial evidence, but it does raise some questions. Whether it was written by the businessman or someone trying to frame him, the information included in the letter does appear to be, at the very least, rooted in some truth.
Therefore, it seems that finding out who actually wrote the letter could get us a step closer to possibly finding out who may have been involved in Elaine's murder.
While researching the letter, one name came up, Hal Louder Jr. Louder was working as a private investigator after his career with the Hall County Fire Marshal's office.
His work pertained mostly to injury cases based on his expertise in fires and explosions. Louder went to church with the Nix family and decided to look into it for the family.
Though he told us that he wasn't very successful. Quote, "We did look into and follow a few things. People sent us a lot of stuff that we just tried to weed out. I mean, we had every psychic in the world calling us," end quote.
While he did talk to the Gwinnett County investigator, he didn't have a lot to offer.
Quote, "I feel really bad about it. The thing still haunts me," end quote.
Louder said his belief was that Hall County probably could have solved the case if it had not been handed over to Gwinnett County.
We have repeatedly called and emailed Louder for a follow-up interview since our initial contact with him, but those requests have not been returned. So since the beginning, we've been trying to find Billy Millwood III. We wanted to get his side of the story, to find out what his life has been like. It seemed pretty clear from the beginning that he got ruled out as a suspect, or even really a person of interest, beyond what he knew that night when Elaine went missing. But
yeah, there's still been a lot of mystery surrounding what actually was conveyed during that phone call with Elaine on September 20th, 1999. So we've made attempts to try to interview and talk to Billy. We actually went out to Cleveland to his mom's house, Tammy. We kind of let her know about the podcast, what we were trying to do, and that we were trying to get in touch with Billy because at this point, because he was ruled out as a suspect pretty early on in the investigation, I almost feel like he's become a victim himself during this whole thing. Because I'm sure for 25 years he's had fingers pointed at him. And with him being ruled out so quickly, it's almost like those fingers shouldn't be pointed at him anymore. But without his side of the story, or without actually getting his side of the story, I think that some of the people involved in this, especially friends and family, will always kind of hold on to something that says Billy had something to do with it or Billy knows something about it, which if he didn't have anything to do with it, I just don't really think is fair 25 years later for him to still have that hanging over his head.
The biggest thing has been that he has at times in the past said that he wants to talk to the parents, talk to Becky and Big David, and tell them what they were talking about. Well, let's go take a drive and I'll tell you everything that I know. And then it doesn't happen. And he's shown up at the 10th anniversary. But
yeah, and really, I think that's the only one I believe that he's actually come to.
So it just, if he doesn't have anything of value to the investigation beyond what he told the missing persons investigator, then just tell them what happened.
Yeah.
Just, tell them what
happened on that phone call, just so that he can be done with this.
And even though we didn't find Billy when we went out to his mom's house, it was still very insightful to get a chance to talk to his mom. She told us about how he had given her a promise ring, effectively. They had been saving money together, that he was really torn up about what happened, and that a side of the story that we really haven't heard too much about.
Yeah, it still seemed to affect her to this day. Some of the things that she was talking about, especially how much they loved each other.
He just didn't seem like, he loved her as much as his mom thought he did. Because he pretty much went on with his life.
And yeah, how much this has kind of affected not just Billy, but his entire family as well. And how they want the same thing as the Nix family. They want justice in this case. And I believe Tammy said that even if justice isn't served here, that there is a higher calling that will serve that justice. I think that was one of the bigger takeaways we got from the visit.
And we passed along our business cards and phone numbers to Tammy and said that if she runs into Billy, that if he wants to give us a call, we'll take his phone call morning, afternoon, and night. We haven't heard anything since then, and that was probably about a month ago at this point.
But I would like to take this opportunity to say that if you are listening, Billy, and you would like to talk to us, please reach out to us. Your mom has the information, and would really like to get your side of the story and kind of clear up the air on all that.
When we got to Tammy's house in Cleveland, we sort of just had an informal talk off of the patio of the house. We didn't really approach her about doing an interview. We've always kind of had our sights focused on trying to talk with Billy. It seemed like we left that conversation on good terms to try to get her son to share his side of the story. I just always go back to, we know she was a fighter. We know that she was someone who was a tiny firecracker who's not going to let anybody walk all over her. So for her to be out there by herself and to end up where she ended up in Gwinnett, my mind just always goes back to, she had to have seen somebody or been lured into something under the pretense of, I know this person and I think that I can trust them. So who is it that she saw that night that would have given her that impression? Or are we completely wrong? Is it somebody just came and overpowered her? And then the next question is, how can that happen when there's people roaming around at the truck stop that night? How does nobody see something? How does that not show up on surveillance video cameras, which, from talking with Marty Nix, we have a good chain of custody. We know who put the tape in the tape recorder, and nothing showed up there that would have given them a lead to go on from there, at least from what we know from the interviews that we've done and from the case file that we have. So it's just, there's so many, every avenue that you go down leads to a roadblock that says, but wait, this contradicts everything I know about the person or the people involved. And then you go down another avenue and you run into the same roadblock and the same contradiction. And there's some big piece of evidence from that night around midnight that I think would push this case into, this was a stranger who took advantage of her, or this is somebody that she knew who took advantage of her.
But I agree with you. I do believe that there's some sort of evidence out there that probably could have shone more light onto what actually happened. I just kept remembering what Marty Nix had said about, no matter how absurd something may sound, it could be the thing that cracks the case. And so I also wanted to kind of show Gwinnett County that we're not working against them. We're kind of working towards the same goal that hopefully they're working towards, which is solve this unsolved cold case murder from 25 years ago and give Elaine Nix some justice. In hindsight, looking back at it now,
Yes.
almost 25 years later, is there anything that you think you or law enforcement could have done differently that might have come up with a different outcome? Or if there's anything that you regret not doing in the initial of this investigation?
I don't know. You can tell me.
Tune in next week for the final episode of this season of Taken Too Soon, where we bring you the sights and sounds from the 25th anniversary candlelight vigil for Elaine. Do you have any information you'd like us to look at regarding Elaine's case?
If so, please email tips to Greg Finan at Gainesville Times. That's GregFinan at GainesvilleTimes.com.
Check out bonus content exclusive to Time subscribers at GainesvilleTimes.com/taken-too-soon. See photos, read old articles, review documents, and watch videos from our interviews. Subscribe today to dive deeper into this cold case mystery. Find the bonus content link in the show notes.
The music in this podcast was by Ben Ingram.
If you like the Taken Too Soon podcast, be sure to give us a rating wherever you listen.
Thanks for listening. This has been Taken Too Soon, the Elaine Nix story.